Hello, it's the Great Canadian Bagel here, coming with you today with the next installment of the U.S. Presidential Prediction Series. Huzzah! It is September 3rd. There's been a huge amount of polls the last couple days. Really completely swung a lot of rapidly changed the prediction into the most you'll see as we go through it. So we're going to start the video, as always. I'm going to go through all the states, safe, likely, lean, tilt, and then talk about my model a bit, what my numbers are showing, etc. So starting with the safe Democrat states, we got, as always, California, Washington, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Maryland, and District of Columbia. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot Hawaii down here. These will likely always be the safe states for the Democrat Party at this point. I doubt there's going to be any major movement. There's some discussion actually that New York might flip this election, but I'm doubtful. Or that it's in play. Sorry, not necessarily that it'll flip, but that's in play. I'm really doubtful about that. But we'll see. Moving into the GOP safe states, we got Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, North, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia. Not any surprise really at all. The biggest movement here actually is Montana dipped back down into just a likely state, but I mean that's like a difference of like 2 points or something like that, so that's not from like a 20% greater than 20 point advantage to being only an 18-point advantage in my model, so that doesn't really say much. It's not a exciting news. Moving into the likely Democrat states, we have Oregon, Illinois, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Maine's first. Again, not much here. There's some movement in Connecticut, Rhode Island. They're becoming safer for Biden and the Democratic Party. So I suspect probably in the next couple of weeks, barring some major new poll, that those are going to be back in the very safe column. But we'll see. Moving on into the likely column, we have, for GOP, we have Montana, Alaska, Texas, Missouri, Indiana, and South Carolina. Indiana is kind of like Rhode Island and Connecticut for the GOP. It's basically on the cusp of becoming a safe state again. So, and I guess Montana too. So, again, not much movement along these states, so that's to be expected, though. These are the much safer margin ones. It's the lean and the tilts where you see a lot of the movement. So moving into the Democrat tilt, we have Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Maine at large. But here's where we get the first interesting thing. We have Wisconsin now as a lean Democrat. Those of our viewers from last week will know that it was lean Republican last week. Really big change. There's a bunch of polls showing a flip in Wisconsin. Or by flip, I mean a huge increase in Biden's lead, and since my model has Biden's lead be overblown because of systemic or poorly sampled polls, but even with me correcting this poll sampling to what I think it should actually be based on exit polling, Wisconsin is still huge flip. It's like 5-point flip there, so that's pretty big. Really hard for the GOP. That makes it a lot harder for them to win. And yeah, it concludes Democrat lean. So we'll get into GOP lean. We got Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, and Georgia. Oh, I forgot. Maine second is likely. Again, not anything really to see here. Georgia's getting close to the likely column, actually, at this point. It's moved really heavily from being on the cusp of being a Democrat state to be going much further much safer back in the Republican column. So interesting movement, as always, at this point in time. So moving into Tilt Democrat, we get Michigan. Slightly less safe from last week. It is pretty tight now, actually. I think it's less than a point lead, which is very, very tight. Moving into Republican tilt, we have Arizona, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is like 0.4. There's a 0.4 lead in the model, so like it's basically a coin flip. Now we get to the most unsatisfying part of the model. Minnesota and Florida are going to be left as a toss-up here. I don't want to call them because my model says Florida is going to be won by, is within 3,000 votes. I'm not going to call that. So at this point, either party could win in this model because Florida and Minnesota are within a few thousand vote range, which means polling doesn't matter, modeling doesn't matter. What matters is turnout in those two areas. And I'm not modeling turnout at all, so I don't even want to hazard a guess. Could go anywhere. As of September 3rd, this map could be anyone's map. Whoever wins Florida wins the race. Minnesota being kind of just a consolatory prize. So, kind of lame, I know, but as of last week, we're going to go into the best and worst case for the candidates now. To start with best case for Trump, we get this map. So, not a huge amount of change. Some places, like Texas and Georgia, got safer. Delaware got a bit safer for the Democrats. Oregon and New Jersey are like the cusp. Wisconsin got a bit less safe for the Republicans in this best case scenario model. California is actually on the cusp of not being safe in this model, but I mean, this best case scenario is presuming Trump has like a 9-point lead in the popular vote. So I don't think anyone's surprised that California might not be a safe state if Trump leads national vote by 9 points. Conversely, we have Biden's best case scenario. South Carolina flipped. Georgia became less safe, or more safe for the Democrats. Same as Texas. That's the main changes. I still don't think... I think this scenario is even less likely than the Trump scenario, but to be fair, they are the same confidence interval, so they technically are the same likelihood, but I think in reality, I think my model's overestimating Democrats here. I don't think that this is a possible scenario. Like, maybe less than 0.1% chance of this happening, if I were to hazard a guess. I don't actually have a concrete number, but that's my guess. It's very unlikely. I just don't see Georgia and Texas flipping. I mean, if we go back to Trump's best case scenario, like, none of the states that Trump might flip here are that much of a shock, frankly, if they flipped. The only one I think that'd be shocking is New Jersey or Oregon. But, I mean, maybe to a certain extent, like New Mexico and Virginia are a bit exciting, but it's not the same thing as Georgia and Texas. Like, that's a much bigger thing. And I don't think, especially given the 2016 election when Georgia was polled in Clinton's column, but it actually went to Trump by like 6 points or something like that. Like, I think a lot of these places have really poor polling being conducted, and we won't see anything like this. But that's what the model says. This is the best case scenario for Biden. And for the record, I believe I have to double check this. This is if he wins by 15 points. The popular vote. So Trump gets like a 38, and he gets like 53. I think it's 53. 53 to 48. So he wins a lot by that margin. But yeah, what do you get? So to move in to the next part here, I'm just going to talk about where my model's projecting people going. So glorious spreadsheet land. So you'll see here I have some yellow. This is just me forward projecting without polls. This is where my model says things are going to go based on the weighting and time elapsing. You can ignore that. That's just speculation on my part, which is almost certainly wrong. I just do it out of curiosity because I can. So if we look at it, we're here on September 3rd. So our 99% confidence interval is, so that means 99 out of 100 outcomes are going to be in this interval. Has Biden leading Trump by 2.7 points, 49.3 to 46.6, which corresponds to right here in the graph. As you can see, since my model started on the 9th of August, it has closed a lot. Both parties have actually gained ground in the polls versus the third parties, which I don't think is anyone's surprise really at this point. I think every election going forward, the two major parties are going to pull lower than their actual election results going forward, because it's easier for people to say, I'm going to vote a third party, but then actually come election day, when they sit down in the voter box, they're going to be like, I mean, if I vote a libertarian in riding W, I might as well vote. I'm effectively not voting. So we'll see. It's unfortunate that that's not the reality, but I mean, that is the reality. Voting the third parties is more of a protest than an actual meaningful vote. Same thing in pretty much any electoral system where you only have two competitive parties. There's a lot of them. Or a lot of cases, riding systems are only two competitive parties. But anyways, we're going to scroll down here. And this is a new thing I've started doing last week. So this is me tracking my corrected polls. So to be clear, I'm correcting the polls based off of expected voter turnout of Democrat, Republican, Independent, based on exit polls that have been weighted from the last 4-5 elections. So as you can see here, there's a very solid trend upwards for Trump here since I started on August 12th collecting things. Biden has a slight upward trend, but at that R squared of 0.0047, this is going to get a lot of statistics for you, so I'm sorry if you're not a statistics person, but I mean, you got in while you're watching. There's a lot of doubt that slope is meaningful. That R squared value is so low for Biden that this means this line has a correlation value of like 21.21. So that probably doesn't mean anything. Conversely, Trump has a correlation on his growth year of 0.7. So it's almost certainly a real trend upwards. There can be a question on whether I'm overvaluing or undervaluing him, but he definitely is having an upward trajectory in the polls. That is objectively true here. And if you look at the most recent polls, it is very close, though Biden does have the advantage still. And I would say that unless Biden wins by more, if Biden wins by less than 2.6 points, if he wins the national poll by less than 2.6 points, he's going to lose. So just wait for that on. I mean, I guess it's going to be like election month, but I don't know. By the election tally, if he's less than 2.6 points, he's lost. He can still lose above that, mind you, but he can't win below that because the Democrat vote is concentrated a lot higher. Safe Democrat states are much safer than the safe Republican states. Like the margin they're safe by is way higher. It's actually kind of ridiculous how high some of these margins are, but that's how it is. Hope you liked the video. If you like it, I mean, share, like, subscribe. All those things are good. Comment too. Tell me how dumb I am with my model or something. I don't know. Critique my model if you feel like it. I'll respond to all the comments talking about the model. It's actually kind of interesting. I like discussing it, so I welcome the conversation. Yeah. Have a good day.